Hello, I'm Professor Murray Jensen. I'm your instructor for this semester, and in this little video we're going to talk about what we do in class and why we do what we do in class. The building in the slide is Brunick's Hall. That's where our class meets. And Brunick's Hall features active learning classrooms. And active learning classrooms has round student tables, and an instructor is in the middle of the room. This room is far different than what your parents and grandparents sat in when they were students at the U of M. Historically, the U of M has been full of lecture halls with 500 students, sometimes more. In this room, we have a little bit over 100 students, and 9 students are sitting at a round table. And the reason they're round is we want you to look at each other. We don't want you to look at me. And when you are looking at each other, you hopefully are engaging in good conversation. This class is going to have a lot of discussion, a lot of problem sets to figure out. And the reason we do it gets back to a couple of individuals. Lev Vygotsky was a social constructivist theorist, and he's from Russia. And his premise is this: students engage in conversation, optimize their learning. If you want to figure something out, you talk with people. You don't just listen, you talk. Vygotsky lived a long time ago, but his ideas are still true today. And a person that built on Vygotsky was Piaget, genetic epistemology. Epistemology is the study of knowledge, or how do we know what we know. But you combine Vygotsky and Piaget, you've got a really strong learning theory. And what we're doing, in all cases, is trying to make sense of scientific concepts. How does your body work? How does the nervous system work? How does a muscle work? Trying to make sense of scientific concepts. This is all based on research-based teaching and learning practices, and it's going to involve small group learning. This is a lot of what we do is started in medical schools. The medical schools have what's called case studies, and case studies are different than what we do in that case studies often take 2, 3, 4 weeks to complete, and sometimes one case study will take up an entire semester. And case studies pretty much started on the East Coast med schools, and now they're around the world. In advanced physiology classes, something that you might take if you're a senior physiology major, you might have a case study or inquiry activity that takes a week. And this is a picture of Dee Silverthorne. She's at the U Texas, and she is a champion of inquiry-based learning in advanced physiology classes. And her method is picking up quite quickly. For us, we do not go multiple days with one problem set. We typically finish in one day. A day in our class will start with me talking, then you'll engage in the problem sets and talk quite a bit. And then at the end of the day, I will give you closure. We do not have multiple day problems. We try to finish up everything in one day. Sometimes you're going to have some questions kind of remaining at the end of your problem sets, and I will help you there, or I'll say don't worry about them, but I'm going to try to make sure that every day we leave knowing what's going on. If you want to dig more into this learning theory and the effectiveness of active learning, there's a link here. Scott Freeman is a biologist who has studied the effects of active learning versus lecture. Here's a typical problem set that we're going to be looking at in class. And what this graph shows is what's called an action potential. And this is something that you find in the nervous system. And when we hit this thing in class, I'm going to start by asking you some easy questions, such as what's on the x-axis? What's the value on the y-axis? And then I'm going to have some more difficult questions that require you to put things in your own words. And then finally, at the end, we're going to have some practical application questions. But hopefully, you're going to be able to complete these in 1 hour or less during a class time, and you're going to leave knowing something more than what you came in the room with. We have handout packets that contain all our activities, and these problem sets, these activities, are what you bring to class. This is the stuff we do in class. Finally, when you work in your groups, you're going to be typically working in 3, sometimes in 2. And probably the biggest change for you is we're going to actually assign roles. This is very important. When we do this, I'm going to push for a reader. Somebody must read the problems out loud, and we must have an official recorder. Somebody kind of makes the official language and sometimes that's written on the board for everybody to see. And another person might be a professional doubter, somebody who says, are we sure of that, or do we really know what we're talking about? And the doubter might also be a timekeeper. Should also add that some days I'm going to have group present in front of the classroom, or maybe just go around the outside of the room, where I have people from each group stand up, and that's the spokesperson. So the stand-up person takes a microphone, and I might say, what'd you get for question 4, or what'd you get for question 9, or something like that. This is a fun class. It's a lot of action, a lot of conversation, and if you like to talk, this is the place you want to be. But if you're more introverted, it's going to take some energy. It doesn't excuse you from anything, but you're going to have to engage in conversation in this class. It's a good one. See you in a couple days.